Hello, world. It's your boy Robert Bass, and I want to welcome you to the second installment of Just Clowning Around, where I talk about your world, my world, but mainly my views. I want to start off with my disclaimer, and my disclaimer is, as it will always be, this is just my opinion. So, if you don't like it, that's fine. I'm cool with it. You don't have to. Um, on the other side of that, if there's something that comes across your mind and you want to hear my views on it, please leave it in the comment section, and I will be more than happy to consider it and give you my thought process on it. Now, with that being said, please make it something that's worth talking about. Like, I'm not gonna make a video on how I feel about people eating booty. I mean, after all, haven't we all been drunk? Anyway, with that being said, I'm gonna uh, I'm gonna go ahead and get into it. So I should have probably did this last week, but I decided that I would give it time. That's my political way of talking about myself, so that I don't allow you to understand that I am a procrastinator. So the reality of it is, I just didn't get around to it until tonight. All right, there we are. See, I'm growing. That's my New Year's resolution. Um, I'm gonna start off with something that is real simple and shouldn't take up that much time, which is um, the Patriots owner being brought up on solicitation of prostitution charges. Not really that big a deal. Sorry. Uh, for any female that may be watching it, it doesn't mean that I have a lack of respect for females. It just means that the justice system does. So my opinion that it's not that big a deal is based upon the fact that solicitation of prostitution is only a misdemeanor. For you who have lived a perfect life and don't know the difference between a misdemeanor and a felony, you going to jail. And if you weak, they digging in your booty. A misdemeanor, nah, you probably not even going to jail. You're gonna get a fine, and and then they move on. The other reason why I feel like it's not that big a deal is because is an extension of the fact that it is a misdemeanor, and the fact that it's more of a bruise to the ego, which then leads me to my interesting view on it. We live in a day and age where the Me Too movement is big, rightfully so. I don't have a problem with that. Listen, if you are guilty of anything that goes against what they stand for, I believe that everybody, male and female, should be, dealt with. So, with that being said, we live in the Me Too movement, and when you take in consideration who he is and how powerful technically he is, um, it could have been worse. I mean, hell, he could have been like our president out here just running around grabbing them by the pussy. But no, instead he chose to pay for it. So, although it is a crime, and in this particular case, it was attached to a human trafficking sex ring, you know, um, it's still a bad crime. But given the fact that he could have doped them up and tried to take it, um, I think I could live with him paying for it. The other thing I wanted to talk about was R. Kelly. I don't have enough to talk. I don't have enough time to talk about everything that I want to talk about as it pertains to R. Kelly, because it is a unique situation in the sense that this is long overdue. Um, I watched the Surviving R. Kelly documentary, 2 episodes. I only watched 2 episodes out of the six because the two was enough for me to formulate my opinion. And before I discuss my opinion, I do want to say this. We do have a tendency in society in general, and this is not just a black thing, but black people do it, to try to attach things to a conspiracy theory. Please, in no way, shape, or form do I ever want to see any black person post on their Facebook that the reason why R. Kelly is now being brought up on charges is because he was trying to buy Hershey, because he was really trying to create a chocolate factory. If I see it, I'm deleting you off my friends list because you're crazy. No, that's not what's happening. He is a pedophile, period. Um, but The unique situation about this, and it's not really even that unique. I'm pretty sure I'm not the first person that came to this conclusion or this thought process. Is um, I'm seeing past R. Kelly, and the reason I'm seeing past R. Kelly is because one, we knew when they were able to show proof that he had married Aaliyah, that he had issues. When the video came out of him peeing on a 15-year-old girl, despite the judicial system finding him innocent, we knew he had problems. What Surviving R. Kelly showed was that his problems were enabled by the people around him. Um, Now, please don't get me wrong. R. Kelly needs to be held accountable for his actions, but I feel like everybody that testified on the Surviving R. Kelly documentary should be brought up on charges as well, if for nothing else, obstruction of justice. Why? Because you knew this. As a matter of fact, I believe it was either the first episode or the second episode. I'm not sure, and I'm not going to go back and find out. But there was a detective who stated that they knew R. Kelly was going to the high schools. Like, okay, I get it if you knew he was going to the high schools when he was in ninth, 10th, 11th, or 12th grade, but they knew he was going to the high school as an adult. And you, being a member of law enforcement, should know something ain't right there. If he don't work there, he ain't doing music there, he shouldn't be there. And then he over at McDonald's recruiting girls. So yeah, R. Kelly has problems, but I believe that everybody that knew it and was able to tell the story about how he did it should go to jail because they never said anything. Where were you? Where were you before? Where were you when this was happening? And the one person that I want to be brought up on felony obstruction of justice charges is the light skinned dude with the slick back hair. Um, for no other reason than the fact that he light skinned with slick back hair. Listen, we already get hard time from the dark skinned brothers who say that we soft, and here you are on national TV crying about what R. Kelly doing with your hair all slicked back like you part Indian. That's a crime. You should go to jail. Um, so with that being said, the one thing I want you to keep in mind, you can call me a pessimist if you want, but let's remember, the last time R. Kelly was brought up on these charges, they had a video, and they're stating that they have a video this time, and that the young girl is 14. Um, Although what I'm about to say does not sound optimistic, and it definitely shines me in the light of a pessimist, I just want you to remember they had a video then, and they didn't find him guilty. So I hope that justice prevails, and if it is indeed him, that you know he answers for the crimes that he committed. You know who else should be brought up on charges too? Parents, because at the end of the day, if you believe that your child has musical talent, see, here's one thing: we can talk whatever we want to talk about the Kardashians, but the reality of it is, Chris was there. You can't convince me that Chris wasn't in the room with Kim and Ray J holding the camera like, yeah, that's it, just sit there. Geez, Kim, please move around a little bit. You look like a dead fuck. But I'm pretty sure she was somewhere around. So yeah, she pimp out her kids, but she's always around. When these parents who lets their child go with a grown ass man in a whole nother state, like, and there was one girl who stated she met R. Kelly at the Keith Murray video. She didn't even have musical talent, and her parents was letting her fly out to Chicago. So there's a little bit of accountability for the parents as well. So there's a lot of things, a lot of blame to go around. Oh yeah, one last thing. I know I keep saying that, but this is the last thing I want to mention about the R. Kelly thing. You know, um, poison is a motherfucker. And what I mean by that is if you don't nip poison in the bud when you first find out about it, it's like a snake bite. When you find out you bit by a poisonous snake, you do everything you can to prevent the poison from spreading. And I believe, and this kind of goes into why I believe these people should be brought up on charges, is because they allowed his poison to spread. Well, what do you mean by that, Robert? You know, R. Kelly wrote a lot of great songs. I think the most influential song was, I believe, "I Can Fly," which hands down is the best thing about the whole Space Jam experience, movie included. Because I don't care if Michael Jordan is the greatest basketball player ever, he should never act. And if he is ever gonna act again, he should act like he don't want to act. Um, but I was um, I was sitting down earlier, and there's a ritual when I don't cook, where someone plays YouTube through the smart TV, and it's usually gospel. And there was a song that came on, and it was written by R. Kelly. And the thing to that is, like, if you're gonna mute R. Kelly, you're gonna mute a lot of people. And if that's the route you're gonna go ahead. I mean, that's like boycotting Gucci. I'm behind you 100%. I don't have no damn Gucci. Didn't plan on buying none. But if that's the boycott we're gonna do, just realize that it will affect some good people. Um, and that's that. I don't really have too much more on that. And I know some people are not, not gonna care, because at the end of the day, the reality of it is, every time a song is played that he wrote, he gets paid for it. So I get it. But man, you're gonna shut down a lot of music. Um, I'm gonna leave on this note. Congratulations to Mr. Colin Kaepernick. It's been a long time coming. I do believe whatever the amount was that he received from the NFL was definitely warranted. But that aside, I want to congratulate Colin Kaepernick for being a great humanitarian. And the reason I want to emphasize that is because I believe that in the discussion of Colin Kaepernick, that is the one point that got lost. When it first broke, he was an arrogant football player who just disrespected the flag. And then, after he articulately stated why he was protested, and even got with an ex-Marine and found a better way to be able to still be respectful as well as protest, then he was not patriotic. And then, myself, and here's the thing: when you talk about other people, be able to talk about yourself. The first year Colin Kaepernick wasn't in the league, um, I was very vocal. I was like, I'm not boycotting because he's not in the league, because I understood that he opted out of a contract, and he could have been on the roster for the first year that he was out. And because we live in a conspiracy theory society, reality is maybe him opting out was the best thing, because maybe in his mind he thought, there was always the possibility of them cutting him, and if they cut him, then you know um, he possibly couldn't do the great things that he did. Um, the other reason I want to emphasize his humanitarian acts is because while he was talking about it, he was putting his money where his mouth was. He wasn't getting money from the league. He was out there getting it. Some people say he got it from Nike. That's why he became the face of their 30 year anniversary. The reality of it is, black people are the largest market in in any market, and if you appeal to them or stroke their egos, we will buy. And so Nike knew that, and they knew that Colin Kaepernick represented what we were trying to represent, and they were like, "Hey, we'll go for it. If we take a loss, we take a loss. Chances are we're not," and they didn't. Um, but again, congratulations to Colin Kaepernick for being a great person. When I was growing up, my mom got heavy in the church, and there were certain things that I learned then that stuck with me. And I'll end it with this. Growing up in the church, um, there's a verse that states that you are to train a child in the way that he is to go, so that he would not stray far from it. And as it pertains to Colin Kaepernick, there's another verse that says, "Be careful how you treat strangers. Some have entertained angels unawareingly." And the thing behind that one was to always be nice to people, because you don't know who you're being nice to. One thing that I learned in church also was, if you're going to do something, do it from the kindness of your heart, not expecting anything in return. And I do believe that that's exactly what Colin Kaepernick did. He set out behind something that he believed in, regardless to what it was going to cost him, um, because he believed in it. And I heard Shannon Sharp say that he he felt as though the settlement was a big deal because the NFL doesn't settle. And if you need any proof of that, look at Tom Brady when they suspended him. Um, and therefore, I believe that what Colin Kaepernick did was great, and I salute you. And although it doesn't change the world that we live in, it's definitely a breath. I'm sorry, a fresh air. So I do thank you for tuning in. If you have any suggestions, leave them in the comments. You can leave them in the comments on YouTube. You can leave them in the comments on my fan page, which is World Class Clown Comedy. Or you can also send an email to worldclassclowncomedy at gmail.com. Class is always with a K. As always, I've been Robert Bass. Thank you, and deuces.